Hey now, what is going on YouTube? ModzvilleUSA back with another video. And would you look at that? It's an old Nintendo. What the hell am I doing with a Nintendo, you might be asking? Well, look at this, dudes. Look at that. It's got an HDMI port. Now this is a Nintendo. Shout out to my buddy Thomas who linked me up to an OfferUp listing. I'm not really one that's always on the local marketplace. It's a listing near me for $100. I think it just said HDMI NES. Story with this guy. This is a high-def NES kit. It's the only HDMI kit for the NES, and made by a fella named Kevtris, sold by Game Tech US on his site, I think beginning in 2016, but unfortunately they're not being manufactured anymore, and they're likely never going to be manufactured anymore. Now a new option might come out. The dudes who made the PS1 digital and the DC digital just announced N64 digital that's coming out. So maybe they'll do a NES version eventually, but this is the real deal. The Ultra HDMI. This is a mod I've been wanting for quite some time, but not actively willing to, pay for it up until, recently. And $100 for this. It came with this. It came with all three Marios, 2 controllers, an NES Advantage. Just a ridiculous deal. I even offered him more money, and he didn't want it, so he just gave it. He said $100 is fine, so whatever. He didn't want it anymore. I'm stoked to have it. I'm gonna keep this in my collection forever. Only problem is, it's got the original 72-pin connector here. Now the story with this, I'm sure many of you guys know the deets on the 72-pin connector, but long and short of it is, when the NES came out in the United States, it was after the video game crash, and people were wary of video games and video game consoles because Atari really screwed the pooch there with their quality control. So they wanted to make this seem more like a entertainment system, and made it seem similar to a VCR, whereas you put it in, you slap it down. An old school VCR too. This would have been, I'm in my early 30s, but any VCR I had growing up, you didn't have to manually push it down, but earlier models, that would have been a thing. But yeah, the pushing down of the cartridge, it was in classic Nintendo fashion a gimmick, the kings of the gimmicks, and it actually did more harm than good. And the whole design is fucked for the 72-pin connector. That's why you get the blinking light. That is the lockout chip, and that is why you just get really crappy connections. So this has been refurbished. At some point the pins have been bent back. You can tell because the games will work when they're in the upright position more often than when they're pushed down. But it doesn't work that well. The lockout chip, I don't know why whoever hard modded this, whoever installed this kit, didn't disable the lockout chip. That seems to be in my mind, that would be a no-brainer. If you're going in there, you disable that lockout chip, so at least you don't get the blinking light. But all in all, it ended up being an alright thing, keeping that intact, because I managed to get my hands on this guy. This is a blinking light win. I believe these came out in 2015. They were kickstarted, and is a complete redesign of the 72-pin connector to be a proper connector. So this is going to replace the original one, and It also has a nice little tray that we're going to be installing. And the difference with this guy is, one, a better design. The only thing that's kind of a bummer for me, just for nostalgia factor, is it doesn't push in, and I know that's part of the whole problem why the design is shitty, is the whole pushing down of the cartridges. But I was really on the fence, about just dealing with the shittiness of the 72-pin connector, because that's kind of part of the whole experience, is, trying to get your games to work, having them freeze on you once in a while. I don't know, something about me it was a bit of a struggle getting rid of, making this decision here to improve it, because the shittiness it's part of the experience to me. But I made the decision. I got the blinking light one, and paid pretty much the same amount for this as the console. This is like $80 from a reseller in Europe. So what we're going to be doing today is opening this guy up, installing the blinking light one, and we're going to take a look at this mod work, because obviously we don't really have anything to mod today. It's already modded for us, but we can at least appreciate or shit on someone else's mod work. We'll see how it goes. So I assume about 90% of this is going to be removing just a fuck ton of screws. So that's how the Nintendo rolled. I do appreciate that this is pre any stupid screwdrivers. Like no, tri-wing bullshit or whatever. This is all Phillips head. It's not before Nintendo went crazy, though. I mean, they already had that reputation of like suing Blockbuster for renting games, and were a bit of a tyrants, as they do. But at least they had the decency still to use some normal ass screws. It's getting a bit tighter here. Okay. What do we got? It's been a while since I've disassembled one of these. It's been about 5 years or so. Yeah, I haven't really dabbled in much Nintendo modding. When I first started the hustle, the modding game, when I was probably late. It was around the time the PS4 and Xbox One came out. So when I was, doing good business, downgrading PS3s for people was my main Craigslist hustle. But I also started buying lots and fixing them up with stuff. And I bought a lot of NESs that were quote-unquote broken, and cleaned them up, fixed them up, flipped them, and decided it wasn't really worth the effort. Haven't touched one since. Okay. So here we go. Alright, we in there, boys and girls. So this is the high def NES kit itself. 2 ribbon cables attached. It appears one is coming from the CPU and one is coming from the PPU on the board here. And that comes out. It seems to be fastened. Nice and fastened to the board here. And they had to Dremel, I believe. Dremel this HDMI port. When I posted this on Twitter, or was it Instagram? I forget which one. Probably Twitter. Some more toxic of the two. Somebody was like, "Red, what are you gonna redo that cut? That's horrible." I don't know if he was trolling or what, but I think they did a fine job on that. Maybe it could be done better. It's a solid rectangle. It's not the exact HDMI shape, but yeah, I don't look at that cut. Let me know what you guys think. But when I see that HDMI cut, I don't think that's bad at all. I think that's quite fine. Maybe my standards for plastic cutting are low, but Christ, dude. The things that bother some people surprise me. So yeah, that's the main board there. Now let's take a look at the Nintendo board. So we've got the I forget which one's which, but we've got the CPU and PPU, which is some nice and nicely soldered joints. No complaints there. Okay, and so this is how this works. This seems like a pretty damn easy looking mod, if I do say so myself. So what's going on here, for what it seems, is all this mod really required was you need to desolder the CPU and PPU from your Nintendo. Once you do that, you solder in some sockets. You can see these are kind of just like pin headers. They'd be sockets. I think if we want to, we can unplug this, but I don't want to weaken the integrity of the grip there. It's in there. I'm going to leave it in there. And then we got these little PCBs that plug into the sockets. And then we got more sockets. We just plug the chips that we desoldered into those. Ribbon cable comes out, attaches to the kit itself, and it looks like, I don't know if this cable is normally hooked up on a Nintendo. Like I said, it's been many years, and when I was last time I opened one of these up, I was much greener when it came to console modifications. But yeah, they either attached these two wires, or this was attached to something else, and now it's attached to the high def NES kit. Very nice. Now I believe this was the first of its kind. I'm sure one of you retro mod dudes in the comments that's been around the scene longer than me will correct me if I'm wrong there, but this is for sure the first retro console HDMI solution that I remember hearing about, was the high def NES kit. And then they came out with the Ultra HDMI for N64. And then the dudes at Black Dog Tech, I don't know who's all, Dan's Projects, Black Dog Tech, Dan Kuntz, Citrus 3000. There's seems like a lot of people involved. I don't know the ins and outs of that whole thing, but those fellas have been coming up with all the other ones that have been coming out, like the DC digital, PS1 digital, and so forth. And they seem to have no end in sight. They're moving at a pretty awesome rate. Hopefully they come up with a Saturn one. That would be cool. I'd really like to see a PS2 one, but the obvious issues, it's going off on a little side rant, we're working on Nintendo here. The obvious issues, I think they probably get that question a lot, and if you've ever done some PS2 mod chip installs, or just refurbished, like swapped lasers or whatever on enough broken PS2s, you would know that there's a fucking ton of motherboard revisions. It's insane. Like, there's a lot for PS1, but for PS2 it's like double that, and they're very different. Like, every motherboard you look at is very, very different. And even if it's like a similar, if you look at the mod chip diagrams, there's very similar. Like people sort it like version 12, version 15. Like version 15 itself has like 5 or 6 different motherboard variants with little differences. So that's that's I think what really holds back the PS2 HDMI kit, because they're gonna have to narrow it down to one model, like 1 or 2 models maybe. Like the PS1 digital works on like 2 boards, I believe, and maybe 3, I forget. But they're really gonna have to narrow that down. So if they make it, all I'm saying is make the PS2 HDMI kit for the 7000 early PS2 Slim, baby. That's the one. That's the one we need. That's the one we want. Perfect PS1 support on those. Then it all gets weird from there. Cool, dudes. Well, that's the kit, man. Well, let's see what's up with this shit. This is what we're in here for. Oh, but first, I'm gonna hit this with some IPA. Just give it a little cleansing. It doesn't hurt. I'm not gonna go wild with the Brasso, whatever the fuck it's called. I just don't care. Before we really lock it in too, might as well hit it on this side. You know what, the NES is a beautiful system. I truly love it. Okay, so here's what we got when we open the blinking light win. Now, hopefully they come out with more of these, or at least they manufacture a new bunch, because, like I said, I had to buy this from Europe from a reseller. 2015 Arcade Works. A little sticker. It's a crappy looking sticker, guys. Step up that sticker game. Alright, this side up, this side down. Oh, and one thing I think I kind of glossed over in my rambling way. The lockout chip on this console is not disabled, but I believe that's a good thing, because the blinking light win will disable it for us. I believe that's what this chip is doing right here. So we don't need to worry about lifting pins or cutting pins or anything like that. So we're going to keep the board intact despite the modifications that are already done to it. And yeah, it's a nice touch. So that side's up. Okay. There it goes. It's snapping in. What the heck? How does this go? It's not like that. Oh, okay. So this goes over top. Just like that. Simple. Simple, simple, simple. And while the NES has a lot of screws going on, I truly appreciate that they're all the same screw. All right. Just lock in the RF module. Aha. My lighting was poor. It is 4 screws, not just the 2. Final touch, I want to put this keep calm, do not press down sticker concealed by the tray here. There it is. Very nice. Let's see how this death grip I've heard so much about treats us. And it's just from the angle, from what I've gathered. It's got a weird grip. What the hell? Alright. Got Zelda 2 in there. Oh, that's a grip. Yeah, it's definitely something. Not a deal breaker, but that is a bit of a oh lordy situation. But our game should play, and I might consider getting myself an EverDrive at this point. If games are that much of a bitch to switch out, but we'll see. We'll see when it comes to it. For now, though, let's fire this guy up and let me show you around, and let's test that blinking light win. Okay, so here we are on the high def NES console, captured with my Elgato HD 60 or Pro or whatever the PCI Express one is, and this is the in-game menu, in-game display with all of the different features here. You change the palette. There's actually an insane amount of features. A whole bunch of palettes. You can go black and white if you wanted to. I kind of like the standard one there. Well, that's all personal preference. The audio features, I don't even understand. There's a ton of them. The viewer looks crazy. Let's get in there. Yeah, you can see all the different notes that are being played in real time. Pretty nutty stuff. You can change the settings. You can set up a hotkey for overclocking on the fly. Very robust in-game menu and or on-screen display, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, and here's what it looks like with one of the many palettes we have at our disposal there. Very beautiful. Very unfortunate that these have become so hard to come by, and the value is likely going to keep going up unless an alternative comes out. But I think this is going to be the one that's still worth having. I really like that menu, unless the DC Digital dudes really give it some extra features. I can't imagine what else something like this would need. I imagine this will reign king for the HDMI NES solutions. But yeah, thanks for watching, dudes.